At exactly 12 minutes past midnight, everything the royal family had tried to contain for years detonated in absolute silence. Because King Charles didn't just make a decision, King Charles erased a future, severed a legacy, and signed away the final thread holding Prince Harry inside the monarchy. And the most unsettling part isn't that it happened, it's how quietly it was done, how deliberately it was hidden, and why no one was allowed to stop it. The moment the sealed order touched the desk, something irreversible had already begun. There was no announcement, no gathering, no dramatic confrontation in front of cameras. Just a room, a document, and a king who knew exactly what he was about to destroy. The words themselves carried a brutal finality: remove the style, remove the titles, withdraw the privileges, and yet what they truly removed was far more dangerous: identity, belonging, and the illusion that Prince Harry still had a place waiting for him. But here's where the silence becomes suspicious, because King Charles didn't rush this. King Charles lingered. King Charles read the final paragraph twice, as if hoping it might change. And beneath the official order there was another version, a softer one, a temporary suspension, a possible return, a door left slightly open. And then, without hesitation, King Charles crossed it out. Not delayed, not reconsidered. Eliminated, which raises the question no one inside that room dared to ask out loud: why did King Charles refuse even the possibility of reconciliation? Because this wasn't just about a title. This was about control, about timing, about making sure no one, not Prince Harry, not William, not even public opinion, could intervene. Midnight wasn't symbolic. Midnight was strategic. Before the press could react, before advisors could object, before emotion could interfere with authority. King Charles didn't want discussion. King Charles wanted finality. And thousands of miles away, Prince Harry didn't hear it from the world. Prince Harry heard it in isolation. A secure phone, a voice reading a decision already made. No debate, no explanation, just confirmation. And when Prince Harry asked the only question that mattered, whether King Charles had ordered it himself, the answer came immediately. No hesitation, no ambiguity, just truth. That's the moment everything shifted. Because this wasn't the institution acting, this wasn't advisors maneuvering behind the scenes, this was King Charles directly, personally choosing the crown over his own son. And what followed wasn't anger, it wasn't outrage, it was stillness. The kind of stillness that signals something far deeper than shock, the kind that means the damage has already settled in. Meanwhile, William had already known, hours earlier, privately informed, quietly briefed, and when William responded, it wasn't triumph, it wasn't relief, it was something colder, something heavier. Acceptance, then it must stand. 4 words, no emotion, no hesitation, just alignment with a decision that would permanently redefine the balance of power inside the monarchy. And that alignment matters more than anyone is saying, because this wasn't just King Charles acting alone, this was a transition of authority in motion, a future king validating a present king, a line being drawn not just for today, but for the next reign, which means this wasn't about ending a conflict, this was about preventing it from continuing into William's future. But if everything was so clear, so necessary, so justified, then why does every detail feel so carefully hidden? Why was there a softer draft at all? Why was midnight chosen? Why was Prince Harry allowed to attend that final memorial only to be isolated, restricted, and placed at a distance? Why did one private confrontation inside St. George's Chapel suddenly collapse years of resistance from King Charles? Because something happened in that room. Something that crossed a line King Charles had refused to cross for years. A leak. A breach. A confirmation that private conversations were no longer private. And the moment trust disappears inside a monarchy built on discretion, everything becomes a threat. Not just scandal, not just headlines, but the stability of the entire institution. And that's where the narrative fractures. Because from one side, this looks like discipline, necessary, inevitable, a king protecting the crown. But from another, it looks like something far more personal. A father pushed to the point where trust no longer exists. A decision driven not just by duty, but by exhaustion. And right at the center of it all sits that final meeting. Clarence House. No advisors, no cameras, just King Charles and Prince Harry facing everything they had avoided saying for years. A folder between them, unopened but impossible to ignore. Prince Harry didn't deny anything. Prince Harry didn't retreat. Instead, Prince Harry challenged the logic itself. Why him? Why now? Why permanent removal when others had caused scandal and remained untouched? And for the first time, King Charles answered not as a strategist, but as both monarch and father. Leaving wasn't the unforgivable act. That wasn't the breaking point. The damage came from something deeper, from turning private trust into public exposure, from transforming family conversations into global narratives, from creating a pattern where every interaction carried risk. And in that moment, the issue wasn't behavior, it was uncertainty. And uncertainty in a monarchy is the most dangerous thing of all. Prince Harry tried one last move, a compromise. Keep the title privately, remove it publicly, a temporary withdrawal, a pause, a chance to rebuild. But King Charles didn't even consider it, because to King Charles, identity couldn't be selective. It couldn't be used, removed, and reclaimed depending on the moment. And then the line that changed everything. Prince Harry invoked Diana, and the room froze, because that wasn't just emotion, that was pressure. That was history being used as leverage. And King Charles's response ended the conversation before it could even continue. No negotiation, no reconsideration, just a boundary. Final, unmovable. And yet, even after that confrontation ended, the most chilling part of this entire story didn't unfold in anger or argument. It unfolded in silence, in procedure, in the cold machinery of a monarchy that had already begun moving long before Prince Harry realized there was nothing left to stop. Because once King Charles left that room, the decision was no longer emotional, it became structural, calculated, and unstoppable, as if the system itself had been waiting for permission to act. Documents were drafted with surgical precision. Every word tightened so it could never be softened later, never reinterpreted, never quietly undone by a future reign. Advisors didn't just prepare an order, they built a wall. And William was brought directly into that process, not as a spectator, but as the future enforcer of what was about to happen. That alone reveals something deeper than discipline. It reveals planning beyond the present moment. William didn't just support a boundary, William ensured that boundary would survive him becoming king. But even inside that system, cracks of humanity refused to disappear. Because King Charles kept reading the same name again and again across those final pages, Prince Henry, and for a brief moment, the king didn't act like a monarch. The king paused. The king cleared the room. The king whispered a name that existed long before titles, before conflict, before everything collapsed. And then King Charles went back to the document and finished what had already been set in motion. What followed wasn't just a removal, it was a complete erasure of position. Every ceremonial record, every seating plan, every official reference. The title didn't fade. The title was stripped out with precision, as if it had never existed in the first place. That's not correction. That's reconstruction. And it happened at a speed that left no room for reaction. Because the moment the order was signed, the consequences didn't wait for daylight. They spread instantly. Palace databases changed. Invitations disappeared. Internal communications erased Duke of Sussex and replaced it with something colder, something smaller, Prince Harry. And when Prince Harry saw it, the reaction wasn't disbelief for long. It was realization. This wasn't a warning. This wasn't pressure. This was a completed transformation already accepted by the system. And while the institution moved with precision, the human reaction unfolded in fragments. Meghan urging a response before the narrative was controlled. Prince Harry starting to speak, then stopping mid-sentence, unable to decide whether this was a fight worth continuing or a loss already too deep to argue against. That hesitation says more than any statement ever could. Because for the first time, Prince Harry wasn't defending a role, Prince Harry was confronting the absence of it. But the most revealing moment didn't happen in public. It happened on a private call. A direct connection between William and Prince Harry, stripped of advisors, stripped of protocol, stripped of everything except truth. And what came out wasn't rage. It wasn't negotiation. It was something far more uncomfortable, honesty. Prince Harry asked the question directly. Did William demand this? And William answered with a balance that exposed everything. William had pushed for resolution. William had wanted an end to uncertainty. But William had not orchestrated the midnight execution of it. And yet, that distinction didn't matter. Because from Prince Harry's perspective, support for the outcome was betrayal, regardless of how it was carried out. And then came the moment that sealed everything permanently. William revealed that King Charles had asked one final question before signing whether William would reverse the decision once he became king. And William said no. Not maybe, not reconsider. No, that answer didn't just support the order, it guaranteed it would never be undone. And in that moment, Prince Harry understood something devastating. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't reversible. This was permanent by design. By sunrise, the world saw what had been decided in darkness. Headlines exploded, broadcasts interrupted, crowds gathered. But beneath all the noise, one truth remained untouched. The decision wasn't just about a title. It was about redefining who belongs and who no longer does. Some called it strength. strength. Others call it exile. But neither explanation fully captures what actually happened, because this wasn't a clean ending. It was a controlled fracture. King Charles protected the crown, but at a cost that can't be reversed. William secured the future, but at the expense of the past. And Prince Harry didn't just lose a title, Prince Harry lost the final official acknowledgement that the monarchy still recognized a place within it.